I had suggested to the Speaker some months before the election that we bring together a small group of people to try to anticipate all that might go wrong in the election and the aftermath. What happens if the Electoral College is tied? What if a state sends more than one slate of electors? What if the Vice President doesn't do their job? And she thought it was a good idea. We met for weeks to prepare. We anticipated everything that might go wrong except the one thing that did, a violent attack on the Capitol. But as a result, I was asked to help manage the floor debate that day, and I wasn't really paying attention to what was happening outside on the Mall. I wasn't really paying attention to the vast number of people that were gathered outside. It wasn't until I looked up from when I was speaking and saw that the speaker was no longer in her chair that I realized something was seriously wrong. And then we had a succession of announcements by Capitol Police about rioters in the building. We needed to get out. And as I waited for people to get through the throng of doors to get out of the Capitol, I had a couple of Republican members come up to me and say, "You can't let them see you. I know these people, I can talk to these people, I can talk my way through these people. You can't let them see you." And at first I have to say I was kind of touched by their evident concern for my safety, but my next reaction was, if you sons of bitches hadn't been lying about the election, I wouldn't need to worry about my safety. But of all the awful memories of that day, among the most terrible was the exhibition of Confederate flags in the Capitol. Confederate flags and Auschwitz t-shirts, because this told me that this was not just a Trumpist insurrection, that this was also a white nationalist insurrection. I reached a couple terrible epiphanies during the Trump years. The first was that for the first time in my lifetime, and maybe anyone's lifetime, the predominant threat to our democracy came from within. But the second terrible conclusion was that so many of the people I worked with across the aisle, people I admired and respected because I believed that they believed what they were saying, turned out not to believe it at all. Or if they did, none of it quite so much mattered as holding their position or maybe getting a better job. And it brings to mind something that Robert Caro once said about power, when he said that power doesn't corrupt as much as it reveals. It doesn't always reveal us for our best, but it says a lot about who we are. Well, power revealed a lot about the people that I serve with, but power also revealed a lot about our country, about a deep vein of bigotry that has run through our country since its founding, a deep vein of bigotry that is always there to be tapped by a demagogue. And it has been tapped by that demagogue. And we've seen an explosion in hate as a result. I offered an amendment recently to the Judiciary Committee to have the Judiciary Committee oversee the rise of domestic violent extremism and white nationalism. And you can imagine the reaction from my Republican colleagues was to accuse me of excessive wokeism. It's not that I'm woke so much as they're asleep to the terrible rise we're seeing, the normalization of hate. Now, you may know me from my opposition to Trump, but I've been proud to be a champion of voting rights. Indeed, I made the argument, and I didn't win this argument, that the first thing we should have done when we had the House and the Senate and the White House was pass voting rights. Because voting rights are the foundation. And without that, the whole edifice comes crumbling down. I'm going to go to the Senate. I'm going to fight to do away with the filibuster. And the first order of business for me is passing voting rights. Because the whole Republican business model, the whole Mitch McConnell business model is one of disenfranchisement. They know their ideas are unpopular and backward, and the only way they can attain power and keep power is if they make sure that fewer Americans can vote, and most particularly, fewer people of color. And the idea that we would elevate this arcane rule of a filibuster, which has such a sordid history of disenfranchisement, to disenfranchise another generation, new generation of Jim Crow laws, is unthinkable. So I'm going to go to the Senate to fight to pass voting rights, to do away with the filibuster. I'm proud to carry legislation to make access, equitable access to health care a civil right, because all too often when people go to get health care, the quality of the care they receive depends on the color of their skin. Alex Padilla is carrying the Senate version. I've introduced and been carrying for years the House version to make equitable access to care a civil right, to establish an Office of Civil Rights in the Department of Health and Human Services, to provide a private right of action when people are deprived of equitable access to care. These are going to be my priorities, and I appreciate you hearing me out today. I have two wonderful colleagues who are also running in